Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about our book club read for March, which is going to be Pride and Prejudice. We just finished our book club read for February, and I know obviously it's the last day of February, so technically we're not in March yet, but I figured it'd be a good idea to kind of get a jump on things. And so today I'm uploading our What You Need to Know Before You Read Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. And so I'm really excited to talk about this. I'm really excited to talk about, Jane Austen and Pride and Prejudice. I'm excited to share it with you guys because I hope a lot of you guys who haven't read it will really, really enjoy it because it's one of my favorite novels of all time, especially you young men out there and you men out there. I think it's going to be really, really interesting to see what you guys think about it, and hopefully you guys enjoy it because I know I enjoy it a lot. But like I just said, we just finished Crime and Punishment for our February read. It was absolutely wonderful. I really, really, really love that book. It's probably my favorite book, or one of my favorite books of all time, and I'm so glad I got to share it all with you guys. All of the lectures for both that book, Crime and Punishment, and Moby Dick, our January read are going to stay uploaded on the Patreon in the book club at patreon.com/literary canon book club. So please go look that up. It's going to be in the description if you guys want to join and join us for Pride and Prejudice as well. But yeah, why don't we just get into it real quick and talk about what I think you should know before you read Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. First off, let's talk about Jane Austen a little bit because it's always a good idea to kind of get to know the author that you're going to be reading into. You know what I mean? The author that you're going to be reading with. But anyways, Jane Austen, she lived in 1775 and she died in 1817 in England. And so I'm just gonna look over here as my notes are over here. So just bear with me a little bit. But Jane Austen, obviously born in 1775, died in 1817, and she was born in England. And she wrote during what is called the Regency era, which is late 1700s and early 1800s mostly, when social class, inheritance, and marriage all were like basically what single-handedly defined women's features or futures, sorry, and there's like, their social uh, class kind of defined who they were as people and like what kind of value they had. And obviously the Regency era is earlier than a lot of like those common 19th century authors that we think of. Most 19th century authors that you might think of are probably from the late 1800s. Like Dostoevsky is one that we just read, Crime and Punishment. He is from 1860s. Tolstoy also from 18 like 60s and 70s. There are a lot of. I think Dickens was also in the later half of the 1860s, but forgive me if I'm wrong. But that being said, the point is that Jane Austen was an extremely, extremely influential writer, and what she did carried on into a lot of, the greats of literature. She is a great herself, but it carried on into so many different people after her that a lot of her, work is now used today. And we're going to talk a little bit about like what kind of things she implemented in writing that we all use today and that we are all very familiar with. Excuse me. We're going to talk about that in just a second, but we'll talk about the book a little bit first. But she wrote a lot of other novels, and including obviously Pride and Prejudice. She wrote, but she also wrote. I mean, there's Emma, there's Sense and Sensibility, Northanger Abbey, Persuasion, and there's a couple more. I'm sure that I'm just forgetting off the top of my head. But those are most of her more famous works, and they all have heroines. If I'm not wrong, I'm pretty sure all of them have heroines. And the thing that she is known for is being kind of an ironic and sarcastic author, and her characters are often ironic and sarcastic. Not all of them, but a lot of the times, and definitely this character in our main novel, Elizabeth Bennet, which we will talk about, very, very soon. But she's known for her really sharp irony and her wit and her social satire. But she's also very psychologically insightful, and she's all often critiquing these structures or class structures when she's writing or when she's joking around. You know what I mean? And so it's just very, very interesting to read. But one thing to know, especially before we read this book, is that marriage is survival, especially during this time and during when Jane Austen was writing this, which is funny enough because I don't even think she got married. If I'm not wrong, I think that she was unmarried and she wrote under a fake name, and so nobody really even knew that it was her who was writing these. But they all assumed that it was like this really rich married woman, obviously because this you know more or less well off unmarried woman isn't going to be writing such amazing books because everyone loves them, right? But that's just what the case was. And so Jane Austen herself, I don't think was married. Let me know if I'm wrong though. I might be confusing her with someone else. But I'm pretty sure she wasn't married. And so the thing to know, anyways, is that in this book, marriage is going to be very important, especially to our main family, and that is due to a lot of money type things, due to the fact that women cannot inherit. Obviously, or not obviously, but if you don't know, she is part of a family that has only daughters, right, and no sons. And so there's her father and her mother, and then only daughters. And so there's a lot of pressure for her to get married because of the certain things that were on women at the time, and so uh, they basically are very, very, very pressured to get married. Her and all of her siblings and every girl that she pretty much interacts with, right? And so basically, this entails the obsession with marriage that especially their mother has, and their dad kind of is a more, you know, obviously father figure, but like calm presence than their mother. You guys will come to know that, but each character is just their own caricature in their own way, right? There's often a good saying is just like anybody you meet in real life can be found in a Dickens or Jane Austen novel or both, right? Because they're just both so good at creating characters. But yeah, anyways, social class is everything. It determines who you can marry. It determines where you live and who you socialize with, and it even determines like how you treat other people, right? I mean, obviously that's not groundbreaking, but there are like these people scoff at this guy just because he's not as rich as they are, even though he's like still has a mansion and everything, you know what I mean? Or like, oh no, I can't date you. You're like poor, even though they're not poor at all. They're just not like 1%, you know what I mean? And so it's just like these people are very, very snobby. The rich people can be very, very snobby, and there's a lot of humor that comes with that, but there's also a lot of annoying parts that come with that, right? But the title is very literal. The title is very literal. Obviously, Pride and Prejudice. This is supposed to represent ideas or characters. While you were reading this book, I think it's a good idea to think, okay, is this person being prideful? Is this person being prejudiced? Who is pride and who is prejudice? Are they both? Are they both neither? Like, are they both both? It's just that's how it is, and you're just gonna. I think it's a good idea to be thinking about that while you're reading because you're always going to be mindful of what Jane Austen wants you to be mindful of. Obviously, it's the title of the book, right? And those are kind of warnings. But our main character, as I said, we'll talk about her in a second. Now we get to talk about her. Her name is Elizabeth Bennet, and she is unusual, at least for a female character written in the early 1800s, or even before a lot of the present day. Obviously, there have been big strides made since this book was written, but during this book, obviously, women were not seen as equal in England. And so she's very, very, very unusual because she is very radical. She values intelligence over wealth, and she's extremely smart. She's one of the smartest characters, if not the smartest character in the whole book. And often you don't see women being portrayed as smart in these novels that were written in the early 1800s because they were often written by men. You know what I mean? They didn't really like it promoting books written by women very much, and so it's just which is annoying. And obviously the men are going to paint the women in a worse light than the actual women are because they're just dumb. But anyways. She values intelligence over wealth and she speaks her mind. She rejects proposals she doesn't respect, and she's witty, ironic, and self reflective. So she's a very radical heroine for 1813. But it's very satirical. Like I said, Jane Austen is known for her satire, for her humor, and it's very satirical. Sure. I mean, Mr. Bennet's dry sarcasm, her father's dry sarcasm is an example. And there's a character named Mr. Collins who's just absolutely absurd. And obviously, all the rich people are kind of just snobby. But Elizabeth herself makes a lot of ironic remarks, and that's kind of one thing that's a little bit difficult when you're reading a novel, is kind of picking up on the sarcasm a little bit or the irony a little bit. Just try do your best and see if you can pick up on as much as you can because there is a lot in there. One character you probably will not hear much sarcasm from or irony from is Mr. Darcy, who you guys have probably heard of, but he's going to be our other main character. But we won't talk about him too much today because we'll learn about him. It's fun to get the mystery. But, anyways, Elizabeth Bennet is a very sarcastic character, and you guys are going to come to learn that as we read. But pay attention to dialogue. Austen is famous for something that I like to call, or not something I like to call, something that is called free indirect speech, which is something that we all use and something that we are all familiar with, and something pretty much every author has used since she, started writing with it. And I don't know if she was exactly the first person to use it while writing, but she was the first person to like popularize it, and she was the person to, make it as big as it is right now because everyone uses it. And I'm gonna explain this in simpleton's words because I don't want to get like a perfect definition and mess up. But basically, free indirect speech is when you're telling a story in a third person light, and then you kind of go into like a character's mind, and it starts to feel first person almost, and you might forget as the reader that you're in a third person novel, and it might start to feel first person for you, like you are almost in an unreliable narrator's mind, right? But then you understand that, oh wait, this is third person. Actually, it's like, this is a reliable narrator who's just recounting the events. But the good thing is that like it flows really easily from just like objective reality into like the feelings and the thoughts of each of the characters. And so it's a very interesting way to write a novel, and obviously that might sound super groundbreaking for all of you because you guys are very used to it. But she was the first person to really make it a huge thing, and she like revolutionized novel writing when she made that. You know what I mean? And so it's just a very important book. And a very important author, obviously. But like I said, she uses that, and she uses subtle irony and polite insults disguised as manners. So just pay attention to dialogue. But the setting it takes place in is rural Hertfordshire, Longbourn, Netherfield. Obviously, this is going to just be in England, Kent, Derbyshire, Pemberley. You don't really need to know where these are on a map or what they even look like. All that will be described. Just know the differences between all of the places and like where people live and everything. And travel between estates matters socially. It shows rank and access. So if you can easily travel and how you travel, it shows, how high of a rank you are or how high you are in your class. But just one thing before we go, and before I talk about our sections for each, week, it is going to be do not count this off as just a romance. It is not just a romance. It is about female agency. It's about moral growth, self knowledge, social mobility, and reputation. It's about so much more than just romance, even though the romance is amazing. It's my favorite romance of all time, but it's not just a romance. This book, and Jane Austen in specific, get such a bad rap for just being romance novels. I've heard so many people say, yeah, Pride and Prejudice is a cute book, but it doesn't really have anything of substance, which is a ridiculous statement. There are these people that just think that if it's not like about some stoic philosophical, nihilist or something, like ideas, if it's not just full of that, full of rambling about those ideas, that it's not of substance, which is just a ridiculous thing to say. Hopefully you guys will agree with me, and hopefully you guys see what I'm talking about. But like, there are people, I would put this in the same category as the other two books that we've read this year, Crime and Punishment and Moby Dick. And those people who say there's nothing of substance in this book would never think about doing that, even though I know for a fact that this book is as good, if not better, or as the other two, that we've read this year. And so, but yeah, anyways, that's just my little ramble. And now I'm going to talk about what we are reading this week and next week and the week after and everything. And we're going to split it into 4 parts. Obviously, there's around 4 weeks in a month. One of these next few months we'll get a week where we aren't reading anything, or like we'll have a week off maybe after we read a long book or something like that. But basically, it's going to be around 88 to 92, 93 pages a day, or not a day, a week. I'm sorry, guys. So around like 15, 20 pages a day, less than 20 pages a day. It's going to be really, really easy. We're going to read from page 1 to page 88, which is, I'm pretty sure, part 1, chapter 18. And after that, we're going to be reading from page 88 to page 184. And that's going to be probably part 2, chapter 6. I think maybe part 3, chapter 6 or something like that. It's split into parts. But that and then we'll read from page 184 to page 279, and then we'll read from page 279 to the end. And if you did not get that, don't worry. This video, if you go to the link in the Patreon, or the Patreon link in the description, this video will be linked to a post, and it will be completely free to see for anybody who wants to see it. It will have the entire schedule of anybody who wants to see when we're going to be reading these pages, what we're going to be reading each week, when I'm going to upload the lectures. If you want to see that, that's perfectly free. Everybody can see that. But after that, the actual lectures and everything that I talk about, those are going to be for book club members only. I really hope you guys, feel like joining. That would be just awesome. I love reading these books with you guys, and I love, hearing what you guys have to say and what you guys think about it. And so it just really makes me happy. But yeah, anyways, please consider maybe joining the book club. And yeah, that's all I have to say. So thank you guys so much for watching. The Patreon book club will be in the link in the description. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoy Pride and Prejudice with me. I'm really excited. But have a wonderful rest of your day, and please stay safe.